Welcome everyone to the Genesys Customer Webinar, an introduction into the Genesys Cloud Dialer. I'm Charnel Bazemore, Associate Marketing Manager at Genesys, and I will be your webinar organizer and moderator today. Before we start, let's take a moment to ensure that everyone is ready and familiar with the webinar control panel. On the right-hand side of your screen, you will find the GoToWebinar control panel, and you can minimize or maximize this panel by clicking on the arrow button in the upper left corner. Throughout the program today, you will have the ability to submit questions using the chat pane located near the bottom of the control panel. One final note before I introduce today's thought leaders: the recorded webinar and a PDF of the PowerPoint will be sent to all registrants this afternoon. Now let's get started. Today's thought leaders are Chris Boylan, Offer Lead, Proactive Communications at Genesys, and Hugh Garber, Senior Solutions Marketing Manager of Proactive Communications at Genesys. So at this point, I'm going to pass it off to you, Chris, who is going to give an introduction into Genesys Cloud Solutions and then dive into the presentation for today.
Great. Thanks, Charnel. So first I'd like to start off really quickly by going through how the Genesys Cloud and the Genesys Cloud Solutions came together, for those of you who aren't familiar with it. At a high level, Genesys Cloud began in the early part of this year where Genesys acquired Angel Inc., and shortly after that acquired Soundbite Communications. The main things we'll be talking about today are really legacy Soundbite platform, the dialer and collection solutions in particular. And you'll be hearing more about Genesys Cloud Solutions as we move forward and as we organize ourselves internally. So before we begin, sorry, stand by one sec. Okay. Before we begin, let me just run through a quick agenda here. We're going to start off with Hugh laying out the Genesys Cloud Dialer and have him walk us through the relevant client use cases. Following that, I'm going to talk more in depth about some of the compliance considerations, including our contact control capability. Compliance right now is probably the single most noticeable and largest concern in the collections industry, and we offer some unique tools to help our clients address those concerns, and we'll talk more about as we move forward. Finally, we're going to take a quick look at the Genesys Cloud roadmap for the dialer solution, and we'll conclude the webinar with a question and answer session. And one last note, as Charnel pointed out, we will have this presentation available for use and distribution after this meeting, and your AEs will have additional information on the cloud.
Great, thanks, Chris. Greetings and welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Let's kick off our time together with a quick overview of what predictive dialing is, what it's used for, and what some of the business challenges are that it solves. We'll then quickly dive into key capabilities and benefits of the Genesys Cloud. I know some of you are very familiar with dialers, but many of the attendees today aren't. So let's take just a couple minutes for a quick overview. Predictive dialing optimally paces the call rate to match agents' predicted future availability, taking into account variables such as the number of available agents and phone lines, the campaign's average call time, how often calls are answered, and the target agent downtime between calls. Then it filters out things like busy signals, voicemails, and disconnect numbers from connected calls. And once it detects that a live party has answered the phone, it quickly passes the answered call to an available agent and have a conversation with the customer. So quite simply, predictive dialing facilitates the automated placement of outbound calls for contact centers. It enables organizations to automate the calling of thousands. Predictive dialing increases efficiencies within contact centers by managing the process of dialing those thousands and thousands of calls. And it eliminates contact centers from over-relying on agents manually dialing phone numbers, which is a pretty common practice that results in low agent productivity with not enough of their time being spent talking on the phone with customers. So no more lost in how consumers are contacted. And as we'll get to shortly, the Genesys Cloud Dialer is peerless when it comes to easily enable organizations to maintain compliance. Before we dive into key benefits, I'd like to quickly highlight some important capabilities of the Genesys Cloud Dialer. As far as core dialing capabilities go, the Cloud Dialer can make very large volumes of outbound calls using predictive, preview, and manual dialing modes to connect live parties from your campaign's contact list to contact center agents. The Cloud Dialer can also deliver automated one-way alerts and interactive voice messages that facilitate agents being connected to right parties via outbound IVR as well. Individual contact center interact with customers via our agent voice portal, which is a web-based interface for agents to access the Genesys Cloud Dialer and interact with customers. Agents can access calls. The Genesys Cloud Dialer includes a robust compliance suite and up to 100% call recording capabilities to help simplify your compliance efforts and control the customer experience. Now, the Cloud Dialer obviously leverages the voice channel, but I want to also point out that the Genesys cloud-based outreach over multiple channels too, including text messaging. Blending can effectively reach customers via their preferred channels. And since it's a cloud-based solution, the Genesys Cloud Dialer benefits clients with quick deployment, cost effectiveness, not having to buy, install, or maintain any hardware or software, and the ability to add users and scale capacity up and down on demand. Next, we're going to talk through some key benefits of the Genesys predictive dialing solution. For starters, it maximizes the efficiency of contact center agents, which drives better ROI from each individual agent. The Genesys Cloud Dialer includes the industry's most advanced predictive pacing algorithms, which dramatically increase the time agents spend talking on the phone by accurately predicting their availability, optimally pacing dialing, and filtering out unproductive calls, including voicemails, busy signals, and disconnects. By doing all this, a predictive dialer optimizes agents' time by reducing the idle times between connected calls and frees them from dialing calls themselves. Not only does the Cloud Dialer increase agent productivity, but its agile and cost-effective voice strategies, agent and campaign monitoring, soft phone capabilities, and automated payment systems also improves the overall performance and profitability of contact centers by increasing right party contact rates, improving campaign ROI, and lowering costs. The Genesys Cloud Dialer also enables contact recovery by using a strategy which quickly launches a subsequent preview dial call with local caller ID after a predictive dial call is abandoned by the customer. Genesys also offers advanced analytics to increase the ROI of your campaigns with easy-to-use visualizations and reports that help refine and optimize contact strategies, prioritize lists, including avoiding customers unlikely to respond, and also routing calls to agents more efficiently. And lastly, compliance is a growing focus these days, and rest assured that the Genesys Cloud Dialer includes many capabilities that will help you mitigate risk and enable compliance with features such as safe dialing windows, mobile identification, contact controls, and management measures that ensure agents adhere to requirements. We're going to circle back and talk more in depth about compliance in just a few minutes. But before we do, we're first going to walk through a case study which shows the effectiveness of the Genesys Cloud Dialer. This case study is about one of the largest debt collection firms in the United States. They've been using us for outbound IVR, and we're extremely happy with the results. And they were looking to migrate their on-premise predictive dialing solution to the cloud as well. This client had two objectives in mind for modernizing their inefficient and near end-of-life on-premise predictive dialer. One, to increase profitability, and two, to improve scalability. From the profitability perspective, the goals were to improve performance, flexibility, and cost-effectiveness over the current on-premise dialing solution. And for scalability, the goal was to consolidate to a single vendor for all inbound and outbound calling across their multiple office locations. It was an important internal initiative to upgrade their predictive dialer, and they invested time and resources to conduct head-to-head comparative performance testing of several cloud and on-premise dialing systems. They measured capabilities related to agent utilization, abandon rates, reporting, and user interface for both agents and management. We won the competitive bake-off based on their testing and reliability results, as well as their client services and collections industry expertise. And shortly thereafter, their on-premise predictive dialer was replaced by our cloud dialer. And they're currently using it for both predictive dialing and outbound IVR with volume somewhere in the range of over 3 million minutes a month. As far as results goes, upgrading from the previous on-premise dialer to the Genesys Cloud Dialer has resulted in both improved agent productivity and campaign performance. And as you can see, both dialing and profitability metrics improved significantly versus their previous solution. Needless to say, this client is very happy with the results, and their migration to the Genesys Cloud Dialer was a smooth and quick process. So with all that being said, it's now time to turn the webinar reins back over to Chris Boland to walk us through some compliance considerations, as well as share our roadmap for the Genesys Cloud Dialer.
Okay, thanks, Hugh. As I mentioned earlier, compliance concerns are at the front of everyone's mind in the collection industry. And really, the risk of not being compliant is real, and the damages can be incredibly steep. Now, the collections industry in particular has to ensure they can address requirements for a number of different regulatory agencies, such as the FCC and the FTC, and more recently the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, along with other government regulations, and quite frankly more acronyms such as TCPA and the FDCPA, which is the Fair Debt Collection Protection Act. To complicate matters even more, individual states have their own regulations, and even client requirements are popping up. And really all this does is make collecting debt more difficult to achieve. The Genesys Cloud Dialer helps clients stay nimble and responsive to these new demands that are imposed pretty frequently nowadays. So what I want to do here is just kind of review how Genesys Cloud Dialer enables compliant contact strategies and where we see ourselves playing. So we offer a comprehensive compliance suite that enables clients to meet pretty much all of their compliance needs. And I'm going to start kind of at the top and work my way around. The first thing we do is prevent calls from going out. So we essentially make sure that you don't contact prohibited numbers. So we support real-time and ad hoc suppression lists to block calls from going out. We can make sure that we add filters such as wireless filters or state filters to make sure they don't call specific states or they don't call mobile phones. We can control contact frequency, which is really the ability to set the maximum number of a contact that we send out. And we'll dive a little bit further that on the next slide. As you get into the first-party collections world, we track consumer mobility and phone portability. So this is critical in terms of having opt-in for sending text messages, and really it helps also address general auto-dialing concerns. And we can also manage consumer consent and profile data. So in the first-party collections world, again, where the mobile channel is really a viable collection solution, we offer real-time integration for mobile opt-in, mobile deactivations, even channel preferences where we can identify the best device to call or to outreach on, or even the language to deliver messages in. All of these things aid in efforts to collect and help sharing data, and consolidating data on a single platform makes reporting of all this easy as well. And lastly, we just ensure that the agents adhere to requirements as well. Our agent voice portal can be configured to present a script to agents that they can follow to read off things such as a mini Miranda or the fact that the call is going to be recorded. And they can be customized even to put state-specific rules in or client-specific rules that you want to make sure that the agent states to the consumer or the debtor as they take calls. So really, the solution allows you to do pretty much everything in compliance and really allows you to move forward feeling like we are covering your tail for you. So what I really want to do is just walk through this contact control piece that I was talking about. There are a number of clients out there who are constrained by the amount of time they want to reach out to a consumer, whether that be over the voice channel, text channel, or email channel. So an example would be what we call a attempts counter, and this starts with the total contact attempts. So I could set a number that says I don't want to make number or the cell number more than a certain amount of time. So let's assume that with 6 contact attempts with 3 attempts to a device, and I want to make sure that I don't leave more than a single voicemail message anywhere, and I do that over a time frame, which could be a day. So specifically what I was outlining there is the Bank of America 631 requirement, which basically says you can't make more than 6 attempts to a consumer, no more than 3 attempts on any device, and leave no more than 1 message in a given day. Now, this is certainly good for collections because it ensures that you don't upset the debtors, that you don't, overcall them and have them start to ignore your efforts. But also, it's just great in general customer experience avenue, where it creates a better relationship between the consumer people trying to collect from them because they're not hounding them. So it's both a control experience feature. So in summary, the compliance, and they really need to find a balance between being profitable and not being sued because they violated a regulation. And what the Genesys Cloud Dialer does is offer clients the ability to deploy solutions that positively impact collections or allow some flexibility for operations while meeting these governance requirements, again, whether it's state, local, federal, or even client initiated. So with that, what I wanted to do is just take kind of a step up and talk about where the Genesys Cloud Dialer is going in the future here. As the acquisition of Soundbite by Genesys is so new, we're in the process of really outlining where do we want to be in the next 6 months? Where do we want to be in the next year, 2 years? And really that vision is to have a unified dialer that can be supported on-prem, in a hybrid model, or even anywhere in the cloud. So we're starting with direct integration to Angel. So Angel is known for their inbound IVR and their self-service capabilities. And so what we want to be able to offer our clients, and really any client, is a completely blended inbound and outbound dialer solution that allows self-service, so that's through CXV, and allows integration, which would be through integration of reporting, which would be through CXA. So we're working really hard right now to identify how we can get legacy Soundbite data and legacy Angel data into the same location to provide a unified set of reports, and then also to take some of the self-service tools that Angel's so known for and bring them into the Soundbite platform to allow our clients to reduce their need on client management and just to be more efficient when they're setting themselves up. Going up further from there, we're going to look to integrate more with Genesys in their virtual contact center, VCC, system. And specifically what we're doing is looking at unifying our agent desktop so that we have an agent voice portal at Soundbite. They have an interactive workspace tool, and we're working on getting a unified tool that will not only allow you to take voice calls, both inbound and outbound, but additionally do chat, send email, send text messages, even network socially. So there's a lot of work being done to join those two together. And then we're also looking at unifying what we call GVP, Genesys Voice Portal. And that's really our unified media and telephony server. So what you envision there is having one robust recording system with great search tools, integrated to Utopia, which is obviously on the next line. So we want to offer an existing, taking Utopia's existing on-prem solution, bringing that into the cloud, and then actually making it part of our existing call recording program so that literally it's just a feature you turn on or off. So there's no more need to send your recordings or FTP them over to Utopia, CallMiner, Nexity, whomever it happens to be. We're going to be one of the only vendors who has a completely integrated solution in the cloud. And that's going to be of a huge advantage, especially in the collections world where speech analytics is a very popular and hot topic right now and being used very frequently. So with that, I think we'll go through and see if there's any questions from the audience.
Great, thanks, Chris. Before we jump to Q&A, just want to remind everyone you have the ability to submit questions using the chat pane located near the bottom of the control panel. So go ahead and submit questions, and Chris and Hugh will be here to answer them for you. We already have several questions that have come in, so let's get started. Chris, I think this first question is for you. How long does it take to deploy, and how do you bill?
So deployment is kind of a loaded question, meaning depending upon the complexity of your campaign strategies, the scripts, and the automation process of sending us an input file and receiving results back, the onboarding process can be as quick as 10 days from the sign of the contract to a full statement of work to installation and pilot, or it can be as much as a month or 2 months depending upon the complexity. In actuality, we actually had a client just 3 weeks ago now, or maybe a month ago now, who from sign of contract to having 100 agents up and running on the system took 6 days. So we really can deploy incredibly quickly. And if you have, an immediate need to get on a dialer, or you've run out of capacity on your existing dialer, there's definitely some solutions we can help you with in the near term.
Great, thanks, Chris. Next question, Hugh, I think this is for you. How many agents can your cloud platform support?
Good question. So our platform is very scalable. We currently have over 1,200 agents concurrently using our cloud-based platform every single day, and we'll have absolutely no problem bringing more new clients and their flocks of agents on board too.
Great, thanks. Next question, how do you handle dialing to cell phones? Chris, I think that one's for you.
Yeah, no problem. So built into the platform is the ability to identify mobile devices versus landlines. So we actually have built into the product a subscription to a service that helps us identify is a phone number online versus a mobile device. And we update that table daily for all the local number ports that go from landline to cell phone or vice versa. So it's a pretty accurate database, and we actually have clients that use this database just to scrub their list. They don't necessarily even dial with us, but we certainly encourage them to. With that said, once we've identified a mobile device, we can treat it a bunch of different ways. So first things first, on the text channel, we can decide, do we have opt-in? Can we send text messaging to those particular devices? On the voice side, we can actually create different passes that treat mobile devices differently. So a really common one in the collections industry in particular is one where once we've identified cell phones, we put them onto a preview or a manual dialing list so that they, essentially to avoid TCPA violation, we make sure that calls are launched manually as opposed to automatically. They're not off an auto dialer. And then the landlines are all put into a predictive dialing campaign. And those two campaigns, the manual or preview and dialer, run in parallel. So agents go back and forth being presented different kinds of calls based on the type of device we're dialing. So there's a lot of flexibility there. We also offer what we call our dedicated manual solution. So a recently vacated Santander versus, I apologize for forgetting the last part of the name here, that case, which case was recently vacated, basically said that you must run all mobiles over a system that cannot in any way, shape, or form make predictive calls, be part of an auto, or generate random sequences. So what we've done is actually taken part of our environment and moved it to where I can set up, based on an account setting, I can make it so that a client only has the ability to make preview or manual calls off of the platform, and it cannot be changed in any way, shape, or form. It's hard-coded, so you can't go back and change it. And so that's been pretty popular with a number of our collections clients.
Great, thanks, Chris. Next question. Hugh, I think this one goes to you. Do you support scheduled callbacks?
Yes, we do, actually in two different ways. Our agent voice portal lets individual agents schedule callbacks up to 30 days in the future. And we can also schedule callbacks on outbound IVR campaigns too, by giving consumers who answer an outbound call from our platform the option to select a date and time in the future to receive a callback from an agent.
Great, thanks. I think we have time for one more question. Last question. The contact control capability you talked about is very interesting. Can you provide more information on controlling the number of contact attempts? Chris, I think that's for you.
Yeah, sure. So this is pretty straightforward. I'll say I walked through the 631 example earlier, but it doesn't just have to be 631. Really, you can control the number of attempts made to any consumer or any phone number at a couple of different levels. I can control it at the account level, so I can say that make sure that you don't contact this consumer more than X amount of times on any campaign that you run, or I can more granularly take it at a campaign level, which says, for this campaign, make sure you don't launch more than X amount of calls. And we can even take it a little bit more granularly than that. So there are certainly, in the collections world, many state laws for instance, in Massachusetts, might say that, or there's a regulation that says you cannot contact the place of employment more than 2 times in a 7-day period. And we can write rules to help you control that. So basically by identifying which of the devices, and store up to 10 devices per consumer, which of those devices can be marked, which one is the place of employment. Once we know that, we can then say, make sure you don't launch more than 2 calls over this 7-day time period. So really the flexibility there is however you want it. And what we're working on the back end is to take tools that we've developed really in our script underneath the covers and bring them to the UI so that clients can build these rules and see these rules firsthand. And as a result of seeing them, if you got audited by someone like, say, the CFPB, you'd be able to show them all the rules, how you treat your consumers, how those rules apply to the campaigns, to prove that you're doing it from a reporting perspective. That's a pretty powerful solution when you're trying to prove your compliance out to the CFPB.
Great, thanks, Chris. Well, this concludes our presentation for today. I give a big thanks to both Chris and Hugh for their great presentation, and I want to thank everyone who was able to join us. Just a reminder, the recorded webinar and a